Welcome back everyone to Pontus Fathom Hobbies. This is Season 5 of Game of Thrones, the board game, and we are calling this episode the House Tyrell versus House Targaryen. Going to try to focus on those two houses on this one. We've been, as a lot of you are probably out there watching A House of the Dragon, Martin's Fire and Blood. And I kind of thought that this game would be interesting if we looked at House Tyrell and thought about strategic allies like Dorne, and maybe Dorne going into Essos, and then, you know, sort of the usual suspects are the Baratheons, the Lannisters, and the Starks when we usually play Game of Thrones. And Mother of Dragons expansion added in House Aaron and House Targaryen. So I thought about maybe in a future one I'll focus on the Eyrie and try to see is there a strategy for them to win supporting Starks and then sort of flipping the tables or playing the Starks against them. So I'm going to go with this angle, really going to focus on Highgarden and Targaryen this game and see where that leads us. So this is the setup video for Season 5. As you guys know, I do these turn by turn or episode by episode to keep the video length not too long. So check out the playlists. If you want to go back and watch the other seasons, we got 5 other seasons. If you're into the Game of Thrones games, got a couple of seasons of Game of Thrones Risk out there, Clue. We've also done the start of A Song in Ice and Fire tabletop game. I'll be painting up the Stark versus Lannister set and doing our first season of that. So all that's coming up. So if you like what we're doing here, like and subscribe, ring the bell to get notified when these games come up, and really appreciate your comments below. If you're playing the games, a shout out throughout the game. We can have a dialogue down in the comments. I read everything you write, and eventually we'll get back to you. And you can also check out our Patreon and our sister channel, where we've got a bookstore that helps us support the channel. We're not monetized yet, but I'd like to get the channel grown and grow this group together. So let's get into the wrapping up the setup. Like I mentioned, I've got the initial pieces on the board. I'm going through the Mother of Dragons setup rules, so I'll kind of get all those things situated for you guys while you're here to watch. Otherwise, we'll see you in turn 1 if you're already interested in the setup. Before we jump in, quick shout out to Pontus Fathom Press, our sponsor. This is the 3-volume Catu Journals out of Lovecraft's Providence. It's available from our bookstore in the link. You got the Genealogy of Cthulhu, Psychoanalysis of R'lyeh, and the Archaeology of Yog-Sothoth. Really helps us support your channel. So thanks for your patronage. Okay, let's jump into the setup. So we're going to play again with 8 houses. So I've done this before. It's a huge setup, and I've got the Tyrell and Targaryen up front. We've got the 4th deck out here for the Essos phase, and we'll kind of just go through. I've set up all the cities. We'll kind of go through the board game setup. We've added in this component here, which is a piece that breaks the veil out from Mountains of the Moon, and we've also got the bite here to give some more board areas. So I thought that's kind of cool. And like I mentioned, I'm going to really look at pushing a Dornish invasion into Volantis and Disputed Lands, put some pressure on Targaryens. In past games, I haven't explored it too much, so let's go into it. So I've got all the house components, cards, and decks. I do have the Dance with Dragons deck, and I'm trying to pick up a Feast for Crows deck to get that extra House Aaron cards, because I'm missing those. I went out in Board Game Geeks and I reached out to a couple people, so let's see if I can pick those up. So I've got the Wilding deck set here. Let's give it a quick shuffle. I've got the Wilding token there, so we'll use our Wildings. I'm not going to play any of these houses as vassals. I'll play them all like they're actual players. But again, as you guys know, it's a solo game, so it'll be so I'm going to shuffle deck 1 for the Westeros decks, deck 2, deck 3, and the Essos deck 4 as well. Get those shuffled up. Next up, so I'm going through the checklist. What's nice about the Mother of Dragons expansion, it's got the full checklist for the setup. So we'll place the dragon tracks on space 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And what we do is these get transferred to the dragon strength. That simulates the Targaryen's dragon growing, kind of. So the dragons get more powerful as we get later in the game. Place the victory and supply tokens. So we'll have to check those out from the back of the card, so we'll get all those prepared. Let's jump into that now. And while we're doing that, we'll also look at the placement of all the tokens for each house. We're going to place and adjust the influence tokens. So you've got these influence tokens here. So I'll just kind of use that mapping to Targaryen. Kind of comes out in this hard card as 7. And then the rest of them, we start with Baratheon. We start with Greyjoy and Lannister as the court, and then we go to Lannister, Tyrell, Stark, Sunspear, Tyrell, and Sunspear, Greyjoy, Stark, and Baratheon, Tyrell, and Aaron, Lannister, Greyjoy. Okay, so we've got that set up. We've got to prepare the Iron Bank here. So we can just shuffle these up as well. And Bravos. And we place a first card from the Iron Bank into here, and it's Pyromancer. So we got a Pyromancer that can start out being purchased for 7. We've got all of our power tokens ready to go here in a tray. We've also got these Vassal cards, and they're very cool. You've got John. Let me go right side up here. You've got Jaqen H'ghar, Beric Dondarrion, Bronn, Syrio Forel, Janos Slynt, and John Cunnington. I'm going to try a mod rule with these to help influence the battles and kind of get to play these cards. Even though we don't have vassal states, I'm kind of going to use a mechanism that and I'll show you that later when it comes around. So I'm going to keep these out on the board here. I will go ahead now and I'll set up all of the tokens by each house. So let's kind of get into it here. So we'll start out with House Targaryen. House Targaryen, we can set up 1 footman and 1 knight in Pentos. 1 footman, 1 knight in Pentos. We get to have 1 ship in the port of Pentos. We get 2 ships in the Bay of Pentos. We get 1 knight in Myr. We get 1 dragon in Norvos. And we get 2 dragons in the Rhone. You can check these dragons out, they're pretty cool. Okay, so that's Targaryen. And then we get position 4 on the supply track. So position 4 on the supply track for House Targaryen. and position 1 on the victory track. Okay, so that's Targaryen. They also get to have power tokens. We'll get to power tokens after. Okay, so that's House Targaryen. House Tyrell. You can see it's a great graphic here. Here's the Targaryen graphic, by the way. Pretty cool. Okay, so for House Tyrell, we're going to do 1 ship in the Red Wine Straits. 1 knight and 1 footman in Highgarden. One footman in the Dornish Marches. Positions, then we also have position 2 on the supply track and position 1 on the victory track. Okay, next up we're going to go to House Aaron. Here's the graphic here. And here's the card. So again, we're going to get 1 knight in the Vale of Arryn, 2 knights in the Eyrie, 1 ship in the port of the Eyrie. Position 1 on the supply track and position 2 on the victory track. Next up, we're going to go to House Lannister. Cool graphic. Again, we get 1 ship in the Golden Sound. One ship in the Golden Sound. We get 1 knight and 1 footman in Lannisport. 1 knight, 1 footman, Lannisport. And 1 footman in the Stony Sept. Stony Sept. Okay. Next up, House Stark. House Stark in the north. We will get, oh, and I forgot for Lannister, we get 2 on the supply track and 1 on the victory track. Okay. For House Stark, 1 ship in the Shimmering Sea. We get 1 ship in the Shimmering Sea, 1 knight in the and 1 footman in Winterfell. 1 knight, 1 footman in Winterfell. 1 footman in White Harbor. 1 footman in White Harbor. Now, last time we played this game with all the 8 houses, I set everyone up using the Vassal cards that I just had here. And if you check these cards out, it's really almost like an advanced position. You can see, like for here, Lannister, it's got lots more ships. So it sort of like simulates, if you guys ever wanted to play like a huge setup game where you feel like you've already acquired lots of armies, this is a good setup cards to use because they really give them maximum coverage area. But we're starting almost from scratch here. You can see Targaryens kind of have an advantage across the way. So that kind of simulates, I guess, the idea of Daenerys already had conquered the Dothraki. Her dragons are already growing, but they're still weak, right? So the idea here is she's a rising force already. So that's why she gets these extra ships. And there's also a disadvantage because of the power, the way that Targaryens are going back to Westeros and to seek out hidden Targaryen supporters that are hiding in the populace. So this is sort of like a asymmetrical house compared to the other houses, right? Now we're going to go to Greyjoy. Greyjoy's cool image here. We get one ship in the Iron Man's Bay. We get one ship in the port at Pike. Let's put this here. One knight and one footman in Pike. And one footman in the Grey Water Watch. I can put this sort of here. They're kind of in the bay raiding. They're sort of in the bay raiding, right? You know. Next up, Baratheon. House Baratheon. And oh yeah, for Pike. For Pike, we've got to put 2 on the supply track. 2 on the supply track. And one on the victory track. Okay, so back to Baratheon. Oh, and it looks like I missed Stark too. Stark is on the supply track is 1 on the supply track and 2 on the victory track. Greyjoy is 1 on the victory track. Okay. Yep. Okay, and then Baratheon is 2 ships in Shipbreaker Bay. One knight and a footman in Dragonstone. And we know Dragonstone is that traditional Targaryen foothold there. As are many locations in the ancient days of Westeros. But now we're sort of in the Game of Thrones time, so it's one footman in Kingswood. One footman in Kingswood. And they get position 2 on the supply track and position 1 on the victory track. And finally, last but not least, we get House Martel, Sunspear. We get 1 ship in the Sea of Dorne. We get 1 knight and a footman in Sunspear. If you go back and you read the Fire and Blood, you see how Dorne was a long time dragonless combatant against the Targaryens. I thought that history was kind of cool. 1 footman in the Salt Shore. 1 footman in the Salt Shore. They get position 2 on the supply track and position 1 on the victory track. So that's going to do it for that. We're going to hand over the Raven to Lannister. We're going to hand over the sword to Greyjoy. And we're going to hand over the Iron Throne to Baratheon. Just leave it here for now. Those can be played. We're going to move all of these Targaryen tokens. Let's just keep them here for now. It's an easy spot. And that's going to do it for the setup. Like I mentioned, I will kind of go into how I'm going to use those. I think I'll make it kind of like a bonus, how I'm going to use these vassal cards, because I kind of want to get those characters in play. Maybe they'll get a bonus for a certain, like a once a game, they can pull out one of these guys to add it to their combat. Maybe that's the way we do it. Everyone will get a token, maybe give everyone one token, and you can play like a, Valar Morghulis token, something like this, right? And that token gives you shuffle the deck and pull a card out, and you can add that card to your hand, especially when things get weak. So you can kind of use cell swords. We'll use them as cell swords. Maybe we'll call them cell swords for this game. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I think it's just a way to quicken some of the combat and get us through some of the game. So that's going to do it for the setup. I'll go check out anything else I need to adjust, and let's get into round one. So looking forward to this. Great to have you guys here. Click the link to see you in turn number 1, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.